Hi, I'm Jonathan, and you have stumbled upon Ex-Witness Awake. This is episode number 4, and today I'm going to discuss a doctrine of Jehovah's Witnesses that is problematic, to say the least, and that is the blood issue. Most people are probably familiar with the fact that Jehovah's Witnesses do not accept blood transfusions, and they are not allowed to take blood or blood fractions. The 4 major components of blood are red, white, platelets, and plasma. So, under no circumstances are they to take any of these components of blood. However, fractions of fractions, it's kind of a gray area, so they might take some of that. Say if there's an ingredient in blood that is used for preparation of vaccines or medications or something like that, they might actually take that. That's kind of up to them as a conscious matter. But even that explanation is a little bit simplified, because prior to 1945, you could take blood just fine. You could take major fractions, you could take minor fractions, you could take the whole thing. Not an issue. Then from 1945 to 1982, none of these things were allowed. Then from 1982 to 2000, you couldn't take whole blood, you couldn't take major blood fractions, but you could take some minor fractions. It was a gray area. And then after the year 2000, you couldn't take whole blood, you couldn't take major blood fractions, but minor blood fractions are allowed. So it's kind of gone up and down as far as the requirements of, what the society is saying you can and can't do. So what are the Jehovah's Witnesses' reasoning behind no transfusions? Well, they say it's based on scripture. There's a couple of scriptures that I'm looking on the jw.org website with one of their articles. It's citing Genesis chapter 9, verse 4, where it talks about Noah and his family were able to eat animal flesh, but they're commanded not to eat the blood because it's considered sacred. Leviticus 17:14, you must not eat the blood of any sort of flesh, because of the soul of every sort of flesh is its blood. And it's saying that God viewed the soul or life as being in the blood and belonging to him. And also Acts 15 and verse 20, where it says to abstain from blood, among other things. They, right after that scripture, they have it saying God gave Christians the same command that he had given to Noah. History shows that early Christians refused to consume whole blood or even use it for medical reasons. Now, blood transfusions is a recent technology. It's only been around for a certain amount of time in the 20th century. This is not something that existed in the time of the early Christians. So as far as that medical procedure, that wasn't a thing back then. And as far as the blood being something that's holy and belonging to God, as a sacred and as a symbol of life, I have heard an illustration to where if you stuck on here. Yeah, there we go. So, a wedding ring is a symbol of a marriage, right? It's something that's valuable. You wouldn't want to lose your ring because it represents your marriage. But if you had the choice of losing your spouse versus losing the wedding ring, which is the symbol of the marriage, which would you rather lose? Well, obviously the ring, because it's just a ring. You can replace that ring. So saying that blood represents life, yet throwing away life by allowing a person to die because they bled out or whatever reason that they need blood, doesn't really make any logical sense, does it? And the reason that I wanted to highlight the blood issue in episode 4, because it's a little early on, is because it's something that has personally affected myself and my family. Now, if you've seen some of my TikToks, you know that I have a 4-year-old son. His name is James. He's a brilliant little boy, and he's maddening at the same time. He's smart, but he's kind of out there. But anyway, he's really a joy for me and my wife. And when we found out that we were going to have a baby, they of course did the usual medical procedures to do scans and ultrasounds and things, and they found that in the ultrasound that there was an issue. Unfortunately, James was one of the 1 in 100 kids that are born that have some sort of a heart issue. So James was diagnosed as having tetralogy of Fallot, which is 4 major defects in the heart and the circulatory system connected to it that, left untreated could cause death eventually. Definitely issues, like as far as, their ability to handle stress, to be able to handle, running around, that sort of thing, having enough oxygen in the blood. These are kids that can end up with, they turn blue because they're not getting enough oxygen. So it's a big deal. It is treatable, and we knew that once he was born, they had to assess him. So Wendy, gave birth at the hospital that's across the street from the Sick Kids Hospital. I don't remember what it's called. I don't remember. In any case, they checked him out right away, and they determined that he was going to be okay for a little bit, but he would definitely require surgery. So 3.5 months into his life, he had to have open heart surgery. It was a very hard thing to have to deal with, to hand your child over knowing that he's going to go under the knife. So the surgery that is done is open heart surgery. And me being raised as a Jehovah's Witness, that indoctrination is just sort of in you. It's kind of hard to get rid of, even if you're totally out of it. Sometimes things just sort of pop up. So when we discussed the surgery that was going to happen, I just kind of said, are there non-blood alternatives? And the surgeon's like, no, you can't do this with non-blood. There's no way. So finding that out, I basically said, okay. And we scheduled the surgery, and it was touch and go for a little bit. It's a frightening thing to see your kid in a bed with all this equipment all over them, and seeing the bandages and the tubes and the wires and all this stuff, and constantly being on edge because you're hearing the heart monitor beeping and the oxygen monitor going neat 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 because he's not getting enough oxygen and that sort of thing. It's a hard thing for a parent to have to deal with, and at a certain point they basically like, get out of the way because he's not doing so great. So the surgeon, we're very thankful for the skill of the surgeon. He determined that he needed to go back in and do some more. So he basically opened him back up, and there was too much pressure on the heart. So he opened him up and allowed that swelling to be dealt with. So we were there for probably a good week in the hospital with him, and so it's something, this blood issue is something that I as a parent had to deal with. And to go back to the blood issue, the symbol of the life or the actual life, I'm going to choose the life of my child. And that's where I stand on that. So it's something that, when I hear that people pass away in the Jehovah's Witness organization because they take the stance of not taking blood, it's it really affects me. This is something that happened recently in the last week and a half, that someone had posted that they lost their aunt because of the no blood issue. And it had me crying, because, it's traumatic to think back to your own family, your own child, your loved one, the chance that they could be lost, and to know that because someone was instructed to, fall on the sword for the name of the organization and the name of God, it's a tough thing to have to deal with. And you know what? The Bible is the Bible, and it's interpreted a million different ways. And the Jehovah's Witnesses say no blood, no transfusions. Other organizations don't do that, and they've got the same, well, okay. they have a Bible to work with. That's a whole different episode for another day, about the differences between the different Bibles and the one that the Jehovah's Witnesses use, which is the New World Translation. It's got some things in there that are not quite right. But anyway, I digress. This is about the blood issue today. So, as far as the heart defect is concerned, when people hear that, your kid has had the surgery, and they're like, oh great, it's been fixed. No, it's been patched. It's been made functional. When you have to have heart surgery like that, it's never really fixed. You still have that issue. You just have a workaround, basically, in the form of the surgery. So, I put my ear up to his chest, and it sounds weird, because it is weird. There's deformations in his heart. So he is going to require more surgeries in the future. He's had to have several procedures done, because part of that is pulmonary stenosis, which is you have the arteries that go to the lungs. So they feed into the lungs. And the left one was about 10% of what it should be. So that's where you have part of the problem, because it's like trying to, squeeze a hose. You're not getting much out of there, so it causes issues. So he's had to have a couple of cath procedures, and he will need more in the future. He currently doesn't have a heart valve right there. They take it out, and so he's going to require probably a pig valve or a cow valve, I'm not sure which one, to be put in, when he's a little bigger. He is going to require open heart surgery again, probably when he's, 10, 11, somewhere in that range, and then as an adult. So, it's an ongoing issue. We're just thankful that he's here and that he's doing okay. That, he's there to give us hugs and kisses and make us crazy. So now, back to the issue of blood. I have stated before that everyone has the right to believe what they want, as long as you're informed and you make decisions based on your reasoning. Then it's fine. I know people that are atheists. I know people that are very religious, and everywhere in between. People who have come from Jehovah's Witnesses, people that have come from the Mormons. There's lots of different people. And as apostates, we may have differing views, we may have differing beliefs, but we all kind of have a common experience, which is dealing with traumas, dealing with the repercussions of the faiths that we were in. And so, if you want to believe one thing over the other, that's fine. My beliefs are kind of in flux. I'm trying to figure myself out too. I wouldn't call myself an atheist by any means. I'm not super religious. I'm I'm leaning more towards the agnostic side because I'm unsure of things, but that's okay. Not knowing everything is okay. You know, you work towards learning things, but it takes time. It's not an instant process. So, you know, it'll come eventually. I'll figure it out. But again, if a person wants to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses and they are completely aware of the things going on behind the scenes, and they're aware of what the doctrines are based on, that is their right, and I respect that. And I do not have a problem with any of the people that are Jehovah's Witnesses. I may, you know, make jokes at the expense of the governing body, but that's different because it's a little humor to kind of maybe stick it to them a little bit, but it's just to bring to light some of the things that are happening, because they are the ones who are in charge. They are the ones who are making these rules. They're the ones who are enforcing them. They're the ones making changes to the doctrine. And they are the ones who are telling people, you know, your kid's gonna die, that's okay. You know, let them die for the name of Jehovah, and they'll be back at some point. Well, I don't believe that anymore. I don't believe that the Jehovah's Witnesses are the true religion, and I will go in more into depth that in the future. I don't want this to be a gigantic episode, but again, if someone wants to believe that, that's fine, but they should be informed, and if they change their mind about their beliefs, they should be allowed to walk away, reevaluate their belief system, and go from there without losing their family and their friends and everything that is dear to them. So, I think I'm going to call this an episode. I hope that I haven't rambled too much. I hope you've enjoyed my little discussion, a little bit of history on our family as far as our son. Yeah, if you are going through a similar situation, if you have medical issues in your family, just know that, you know, I hope that things will turn out for the best for you, and I'll be thinking of you. So think of me, and you know, hopefully we'll get through it okay. So thank you for viewing episode number 4. I don't know what I'm going to talk about next week. Hopefully it'll be good. I'll work on it. That's what editing's for. Yeah, so if you could please, if you like what I do, if you enjoy my discussions and my little bits of facts here and there and my quirky sense of humor, please recommend me to others. Please, if you're not a subscriber, please add me. Like this, spread it around, you know. And hopefully I can do more of this in the future, continuing. So have yourself a great day, and I'll catch you in episode 5. Bye now.